Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the Learning Lad on C++ programming. So in the last tutorial we have learned about the virtual functions in C++. When a virtual function is not redefined by a derived class, the version defined in the base class will be used. If any derived class redefinition is there, then that will be used. However, in many situations there can be no meaningful definition of a virtual function within the base class. For example, a base class may not be able to define an object sufficiently to allow a base class virtual function to be created. Further, in some situations you will want to ensure that all derived classes override a virtual function. So at that time we can use the pure virtual functions. The situations where we can't define the virtual functions in a base class, and also when you want to make sure that every derived class of a base class must override a particular function or method, at that time we can use the pure virtual function. So here in this tutorial, for the demonstration purpose, I'm gonna create a class and let's call it as person, and here let's have the public access specifier, and we're gonna create a virtual function called introduce. So void introduce. So in the previous tutorial we have defined the body of this introduce function, and also we have created the classes like student and like that, and we have redefined this introduce method in that derived classes. But in this case what we're gonna do is, we don't know what type of person we're gonna create from this base class, but we want to make sure that every class which is gonna derive from this person should override this introduce method. At that time what we can do is, we can use the pure virtual function. To define a pure virtual function, first we need to write the virtual keyword and then the method name, the return type method name, and in this parenthesis, if this method takes any parameter, we need to specify that. In this case it's not gonna take any parameters. And the next one is the important thing, that is nothing but we need to write equal to 0 and then semicolon. That's it. We are just prototyping this method here in this class person or in this base class. So whatever the class which is gonna inherit from this person class now have to override this introduce method or define the body of this introduce method. If they fail to do that, then the compiler is gonna generate the error. So just to demonstrate that, I'm gonna create another class and let's call it as student, and this student class is gonna be overriding from the person class. It's gonna be public inheritance and person. Alright. In this student class, let's have public access specifier, and then we need to override this introduce method from this base class, otherwise the compiler is going to generate error. So just to demonstrate that, I'm going to create an object of this class student, and it's going to be student, and let's say Anil, and if I build and run this, I'll get the error. And if I open up the logs, it says cannot declare variable Anil to be of abstract type or student. Alright, now what we're gonna do is, we're gonna create or define this introduce method. So it's gonna be introduce, it's not gonna take any parameters, and also we need to have the return type which is void. And here we're just gonna say hi, I am a student. Alright, let's end this line and add the semicolon. Okay, now if I create this object, we won't get any error, and I'm gonna call the introduce method also introduce. Alright, now I'm gonna build and run this program, and you guys can see we get hi, I am a student. So when we have a pure virtual function in the base class, we need to override that function in the derived classes. Alright, the next thing that I want you guys to teach you is about defining this virtual method in the base class. Normally in real world programming, there will be less chances of defining the pure virtual methods in the base class. Some people say that we can't do that in the base class, but we can do that. To do that, we can't define it inside the definition of this class person, but we can use a scope resolution operator, and we can do that. And just to demonstrate that only, I'm gonna define the body of this introduce. So first it's gonna be the return type of the method, and then the class name, and then the scope resolution operator, and then the method name, which is introduce. Alright, no parameters, and here I just want to say hey from person. Right, let's end this line. Okay, I have the semicolon here, not the colon. Build and run this program, and now it works without any error, and we have defined a pure virtual function in a base class only. Alright, now if you want to call this introduce method in this derived class overridden method, then I'm going to use person and then the scope resolution operator and introduce, and let's see whether it calls it or not. I'm going to build and run this, and now you guys can see hi from student, hey from person. But if I won't implement this introduce method, when we define that pure virtual method in the base class, we'll get the error. Just to demonstrate that, I'm gonna remove this here, and I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna build and run this. See, we get the error. And if I open up the logs, it says cannot declare variable Anil to be of abstract type. Alright, the next thing that I want you guys to teach you is about the abstract classes. So an abstract class is nothing but a class which contains one or more pure virtual method. So here we have a virtual method in this class person, and that's why we can say that this person is an abstract class. So when we have an abstract class in our program, we can't create the object from that class. So here, just to demonstrate that, I try to create an object from this class person. So it's gonna be person, and let's say Anjali, and now if I try to build and run this, we'll get the error. Alright, now the error, and if I open up the logs, it says cannot declare variable Anjali to be of abstract type person. So when we have a pure virtual function in a class, in a base class, that class becomes the abstract class. And when we have an abstract class, we can't create the objects of that class. And the next thing is, what is the use of these abstract classes? An abstract class serves as an incomplete type that can be used as the foundation for the derived classes. So a pure virtual function is nothing but a function with a definition which we have here, with equal to 0. And also one more thing, here equal to 0 doesn't mean that this function equals to a value of 0. It's just the definition of the pure virtual function. So a pure virtual function is a function with a definition like this, and we can define the pure virtual function in the base class, but we need to use the scope resolution operator, and we need to do it outside the class definition. And then when we have a pure virtual function, the classes which are going to derive from that base class should override that virtual method or the pure virtual method. And if a class has one or more pure virtual function, then that class is called an abstract class, because that class contains one or more incomplete methods, and that's why we can't create an object from that class or from an abstract class. So this is it, guys. This is about the pure virtual functions and the abstract classes in C++. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like my Facebook page, and stay updated with the latest videos that we're gonna make, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.